I want to take you on a journey. Real estate, it's not hard. The best thing you can do, Hey guys, Derek here. I want to take you on a journey, and that journey is how I acquired my real estate and how you can do the same thing too. It wasn't quick, it wasn't easy, but I learned along the way several different tips and tricks, and I want to share those with you today. So how did I get started? In 2005, I read a book. That book changed my life. Bam! It's like one of those things that completely changes your life. Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Look it up. I know it has impacted a lot of people over the years, and still today, it's a really big seller. You can buy an Audible, you can go online, you can buy it on Amazon. Just go get the book. It's a really fast, really simple, easy to read book. That is what inspired me to be a real estate investor. I knew in 2005 that I wanted to invest in real estate. I didn't know how, I just know that I wanted to do that after I read Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Around that time, I had around $20,000. And ever since then, I kind of looked around and I never really thought that I could go and buy real estate. I thought I would buy a house and then, maybe get a rental property. And I didn't realize that I would be owning and managing a portfolio of $1 million, properties. So it's quite interesting. It's been about 7 years and still today, it's just really I gotta poke myself. I gotta ask myself, is this real? I did this myself. This is really, really great. And I'm happy to share it with you guys. So 2005, I started my journey. I had about $20,000 saved up and I wanted to use that for a down payment or some sort of way to get into real estate. And I wasn't really sure how to get started. I knew that I wanted to. So let's talk about that a little bit and how we can go ahead and jump into that. Now, keep in mind, you're on a journey. This is not some sort of get rich quick sort of scheme that you're going to do this next year and buy 100 properties. It could happen, but still it's a little bit of a slow burn and you're going to learn along the way and you're probably going to pay for it as well. My first house I bought in 2015. I had $20,000, and in 2015 in Central Florida, houses were so affordable, but I didn't know that at the time. I just happened to be in the market and I thought, wow, houses are affordable. I could almost pay off a house with $20,000. Not quite, but I went to the bank and I said, hey, can I get a mortgage? And they said, yeah, sure, you can get a mortgage. But then I couldn't qualify for too much because I had started a business. And being that I was self-employed, I had to have 2 years of tax returns. And to get a mortgage, it was kind of a trick. How do you show provable income if you don't really have provable income, but you have money in the bank? So you're kind of in a conundrum. You have to get 2 years of tax returns. So if you're a business owner or just starting a business, you're probably going to wait about 2 years to be able to qualify for a mortgage or show that you have income coming in that you can help paying that mortgage. I found a property with $40,000. I thought I'd put $20,000 down and then I would go to the bank and ask them for a loan for the rest of it. And when I did that, they said, listen, we don't do mortgages under $50,000. So how do you get started? I thought I was well on my way. I was, going to have a small monthly payment and I would be able to make things work. So push come to shove, I'm really happy that I didn't buy the house that I did because the house that I ended up buying, it needed a lot of work and I was able to put sweat equity in and build that. And over the years, of course, real estate has gone up and I've done really well with it. So I always like to look for the properties that you are going to have to put some sweat equity in and work a little bit. I'm not looking for the prettiest house. In fact, I quite literally am looking for the ugliest house on the nicest street. And it could be the ugliest house in the neighborhood or on the street. That's usually what I'm looking for. And that's how I'm able to make my money is I have gone in there and with my own hands, I have gone in there and learned how to replace, repair, build, fix, all kinds of different stuff. And one tip along the way was YouTube was my best friend in learning how to do plumbing and how to do electrical without shocking myself too much. And really, I got my hands dirty and it was a slow burn and I learned a lot. I cut my fingers along the way. I hurt myself, but I'm happy and grateful that I did because I'm very knowledgeable. And when I buy a property now, I can go through there kind of like a home inspector and I know what I'm looking for. I know to look for mold. I know to look for damaged areas. I know what to look for. I know the questions to ask. And so over time, I've acquired this knowledge. I'm not going to pass all that along to you today. I'm just kind of taking you on a journey and kind of pointing you to the right direction and telling you my story of how I got to where I'm at and how I'm able to do what I'm able to do now. There are a few different methods that you might learn about in real estate. There's this really popular method. I didn't even know it was a thing, but they call it a Burr, B-R-R-R. And if you want to take it another step, you could do another R. So B-R-R-R-R. You buy it, you rehab it, or renovate it, you rent it, and then you refinance it. And then if you're that guy who wants to throw another R, then you repeat it. That's the Burr Method. That's okay. In order to buy Burr Method, in order to buy a house, you have to have cash up front, that buy part. You can't go to the bank and borrow money on a house that needs complete rehab. So if you don't have cash, you can go to what's called a hard money lender, and those hard money lenders will give you cash. They'll take house as security, and there are a lot of formulas that you kind of have to, not a lot, but a few formulas you have to play by. So when you're looking at a house, you have to know what your numbers are, and if you have a hard money loan from individual, this loan guy down the street, he wants his money back, and so you are now kind of on a timeline to get him his money back, and I think it's kind of stressful. I've done a Burr myself, but I'm fortunate enough to be able to have used my own money and not had to borrow money from other people. And I think that, if you're going to get into that Burr method, there are a lot of different videos. There's a lot of resources out there to help you to do that Burr. And that's a house flip. You buy it, you rehab it or renovate it, then you rent it out, then you refinance it. And then, again, you repeat if you're that guy with that. Going to the bank, when you're doing the RRR, when you're doing that third R, you have to know your numbers. And if the market isn't on your side, or if the appraisal doesn't come in on your side, you might be still having to pay that loan guy back some money, and you might be a little bit short. So do your calculations, look at your loan to value. I think you're looking at around 70%. I myself, when I did my Burr, I totally forgot about that 70%. So your house appraisal has to come in much higher. The bank will allow you to refinance and take your money out, cash out. That's great. And then you can pay this guy back, and there's usually a little bit of money in between. That's really fantastic. But if you miscalculate or your appraisal doesn't come in that much, then you're in trouble. Then you got to figure out where you're going to get that money from. I think oftentimes on the internet, you hear people telling you their success stories, but it's not always successful. But in my Burr, I was very fortunate. I got all of my money back, and then I was able to get a mortgage on the property. I was able to put a tenant in, and I was also able to cash flow a couple $100s a month. But that's not really where I'm making my money. I'm not really making the money on the cash flow on the Burr. I'm looking for the appreciation over the years. And of course, I love the depreciation. So that's where I'm making money on that Burr. And keep in mind, a Burr is just another name for a flip. It's just kind of this fancy name for a flip. I like rental properties. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about some strategies and methods on how I was able to get my rental properties. But before I get there, I want to talk about REITs. You can get a REIT, a real estate investment trust. Basically, you don't have to get your hands dirty. You don't have to show up with a hammer. You don't have to really worry about tenants or any stress. You pretty much go, it's kind of like a mutual fund, and you hire someone or a company, and you put the money in there, and hopefully the markets do well, and you get your money back. Basically, these big organizations take and they invest. These are the guys that are going and buying 80 homes in a housing tract, and they're basically buying all of these properties in bulk, and then they're using your money to buy those, and then they're giving you a portion of your money back. So if that's something you're interested in, I would take a look at REITs. I personally have heard about them many years ago, and I never got involved in a REIT. I was too leery of it, but now they're very common. But back in the day when I first heard about it, I had no idea what it was. So you can do that, but I really love the buy and hold. It's a fancy name for rental properties. And the rental properties I really like to go after are single family homes. Single family homes. I love those. Now there are pros and there are cons. And I think over the years, I've learned to kind of live with the pros and the cons. And, now that I have several properties under my belt, more than several, I have quite a few under my belt, I'm able to stabilize. Let's just say you start with your first one. If it's not rented, you're in trouble because you're going to need that to get that rented. As soon as you get 2 or 3 properties and one's not rented, it's no big deal. If you have 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, you have a couple that aren't rented. Of course, you need to talk to your property manager. You want to get those rented, but the goal is, you want them all rented all the time. But if there is vacancy, hopefully you've been able to finance them well enough that you don't have to worry about any sort of downtime. I know that on my properties, sometimes I have downtime. I had one up north about 30 minutes. It's been vacant for about a month now, but I'm also asking a lot of money for rent. And yes, I am that guy. I'm asking a lot of money for rent, but I also spent a year rehabbing and fixing that property. So why not? I want to get my money back. And it's going to be a slow pay, but I'll get that money back. And how am I able to acquire these rental properties? That's why you're here. So I have a couple of different methods that you could use to acquire rental properties. And I actually tell all my employees, dude, buy real estate and rent the rooms. It's that simple. Now, you don't have to even buy the real estate. You can rent it, put it under your name, and have your roommates or rent out rooms to people you don't know, and then they can pay the bills for you. Or in this instance, I suggest that you go buy a property. In my last video, you'll hear me say buy a duplex, triplex, or fourplex because it's the same as qualifying for a mortgage. And that's a different video. But the point is, I would rent out my rooms if you're able to. Buy 2, 3, 4 bedroom place, rent out all those rooms, and let those individuals pay your mortgage, pay your bills. Do it. Why not? What are you waiting for? You have so much to gain from there. And I'm really proud of one of my employees. He was able to do that. He and his wife, they bought a condo, and then he rents out the rooms. And I had dinner with them a couple months back, and they said, Derek, thank you so much for telling us about this. Thank you for helping us. Thank you for guiding us. We really appreciate it. And we're grateful. And I'm happy. I'm happy that they could do that because I have nothing to gain there. I'm just trying to educate them on something that it's just a smart financial move. And I would suggest if you're in that position, if you can do it, then absolutely. I would really suggest that you rent your rooms. Now, if you have a dog or you have children or it's just not the right fit, then maybe now's not the time. But think about it. In the future, it could be the time. So just keep that in the back of your head. Another item that I like to do is what I call bank hacking. Now, I didn't invent it. I just happened to be living it for several years. And I didn't even know I was living it and doing it. I just happened to wow, this works. But hear me out. When I started, I started with a mortgage and I bought a house. It was $50,000. 50, yep, $50,000. It wasn't that much in Central Florida. And I was able to purchase that house. I was able to fix that house up. And I was then able to move a couple years later. Now, let me explain this. You can buy a house and put 3 to 5% down. So 3 to 5% is what you're required to put down for a mortgage. And that's like on a conventional loan. I'm not talking FHA, I'm not talking VA. I'm talking about a conventional mortgage with a 30-year, 30-year payment. By doing that, you are able to put very little money down. Now, these no money down deals, be cautious, do your research, because there is going to be closing costs. You have to pay, the title company to close and do the search. You don't want to buy a property that hasn't had a title search. So you're going to have several $1,000s. Depends on where you are, what market you're in, how much money you're going to have to put down, and of course the price of the house. So even a zero money down, you still have to pay several $1,000s for the closing company. So be aware of that. I had no idea. For me, I don't remember the number, $5,000, $6,000, $7,000, $8,000 to close on a $50,000 house. I didn't know that that's what a title company charged, but they're all different, and that's what they charged me somewhere around that time, in 2015. Now, I bought the primary home and I lived there for, I forget the time, maybe 1, maybe 2 years. And you are allowed to purchase another primary by putting only 3 to 5% down after the 1 to 2 years is up. That's pretty cool. So you can put very little money down on a property and move your primary to that new property. And that first one, most people sell it because they need to take that money that they have, their down payment, and then they need to relay that and basically drop it into this new property. If you're able to save, and trust me here when I say this, I have been very frugal. On my dad's side, they call me the bean counter because I save all my money and I count it, and I work very hard. And I have worked very hard for many years to be able to afford the lifestyle that I live now. But at the same time, I think that you can do the same. And that's why I'm talking to you about this. If you are able to continue saving your money and put money down on a second house while keeping your first property and then renting out that property, you are on the right path to what is called bank hacking. I didn't create it, look it up. There are articles out there, there are other videos, but this bank hacking method has helped me quite a bit along the way. And so every couple of years, you just buy a new property and you basically go to the mortgage company, ask them for a new loan. And as long as your debt to income ratio works out, that's how much money you make versus how much money you spend each month, And that I have a whole other video for that, but you need to take a look at your debt to income ratio, make sure that you can qualify for that, and then ask the bank to give you a loan. Now, here's a trick. The trick is if you go to qualify, and the first property, they take a look and they say, listen, your payment is this much. You can't afford to buy 2 properties. You can ask the mortgage company to use projected income for that first property. Now, not everybody uses projected income for that rental property, but that will help you, and that will show stronger income coming in to help you offset and decrease your debt to income ratio. That's going to make you look more attractive. And by using that kind of projected income, you're able to kind of finagle the numbers. And then I think, that should help you out quite a bit. And that's a tip and trick I didn't know. I just happened to be saving all these years. So I was able to bank hack and move my way forward. Now, I have also been fortunate enough. There was a house just down the street that I bought my first property, maybe 3-4 years later, where these guys, they put the house on the market. It was so very affordable. It was $92,000. And I went to these guys and I said, hey, I'm interested in your property. And they said, yeah, we're going to be moving out of state and, we want to sell it. And they looked at me and they said, I came across to be a good person and they really liked me. They got along well with my significant other, which is always helpful. And they said, would you want us to owner finance this for you? Let me tell you what an owner finance is. And it's kind of like, whoa, yeah, let's do that. And I'll tell you how it worked out too. And I'm very fortunate that everything worked out. So the owner finance deal was this. They basically had the house paid off free and clear. And so they were able to give me, Derek, a mortgage in my name, but they were basically holding the note. And so I basically made my payments to them every month. I don't know what my payment was. I'm going to make up the number here. So don't do your math and calculate and say that, I did something wrong. The number was like $450 or maybe $500 a month for the mortgage. And I was very fortunate. These guys were able to allow me to put, I think it was $18,000, maybe 20% down on the property. So it was around $92,000. I put $18,000 down, so that's 20%. And then they were able to allow me to make a $500 monthly payment to them. Hear me out, because I was able to take that property with very little changes. There was some changes. I had to, do a little drywall work, and I was able to rent that property out. You ready? I rented it out for, I think it was $1,100, 1100. And my mortgage was $500. Guess what? I was making money at that point, and that was so awesome. I was super excited at that. Wow, creative financing. They hold that mortgage for me. That's fantastic. I didn't really go all in on it. I just thought like, hey, this is something nice to have, and I was very fortunate. And then about 2 years later, by the way, these guys told me that they were moving out of state. They didn't move out of state. They just moved like 15 minutes south. And I knew this because I would send a check in the mail. Kind of challenging, but I would send a check in the mail and the lady said, hey, I haven't received your check. Well, I had bill pay going on and I wrote the check from the bank account and I had it automatically drafting. And for whatever reason, the USPS was taking longer than necessary. And she called me every 2 months in a row, 3 months. I'm like, gosh, this is not me. I pay my bills on time. I'm really sorry about this. I'm gonna go ahead and drive a check over to you. So I'd drive a check over to them. I'd get them paid, get them a check. Meanwhile, I don't know where the check was. It was in the mail, and then maybe a couple days later it would come in, and then she would just cancel that check. So she worked with me. And then 2 years later, like I said, they decided that they were quite literally going to move out of town. And they said, hey, Derek, we know that we gave you this financing deal. We really want to move now, and we need you to pay off the loan. Okay. So I didn't think about it at the time. The approach I said was, oh, I can pay it off. Wait a minute. What if, and by the way, when I paid the $90,000 or $92,000, it was a pretty good deal. And I said, well, listen, what if I could pay off that loan and would you give me a discount? And I said, well, how about a $5,000 discount? They went for it. They said, yeah, if you can pay off the loan by this date, we'll give you a $5,000 discount. And here I am just like, all right, doing hula hoops. I'm so excited. I have goosebumps telling you this. I was so excited because I just saved $5,000 off a house that was already affordable, already cash flowing, already making me money. The trick was I had to come up with money to pay, and well, like I said, I'm a saver, and I was able to save my money, and I was able to go in there and pay them off. So I was very fortunate in that instance. I think that was pretty much my first creative financing deal. I have another kind of creative financing deal, but it was completely different. I'll probably save that for another story. So I like to buy and hold properties, and you can use this bank hacking method, rebuy a house every 2 years. If you're able to save that first house and turn it into a rental, it can cash flow money for you, or at least it can pay for itself. And after a couple of years, I've been very fortunate that these properties appreciate and go up in value. And then I'm able to take a write-off on the interest expense on any mortgages that are there. I'm also able to take a depreciation, so that's so helpful and handy to have. And these houses, they are old. They're in the 50s and the 60s, and so I have been saving for those moments that come where there's a slab leak, or a wash machine breaks. Just go to Craigslist and buy a used one, have it delivered, have that guy pick it up. What are the big things that can go wrong? And that's what you want to save for. Roof, water heater, air conditioning, pipes bursting. 1 year, I had 4 pipes burst. 4 different properties. And I'm thinking, oh my goodness. And so I did, I have insurance. I made a claim, and then on different properties that I own, and for whatever reason, they all track back to me, Derek, and the insurance companies are saying, hey, we'll insure you, but we're not going to cover against pipes. I'm like, dude, guys, these properties are old. I mean, that's why you have insurances, for circumstances like this. Now, on a positive side, I have learned over the years how to jackhammer concrete, dig it out, and do the plumbing. But honestly, it's so much easier having a plumber come in there. They'll figure out where it is and fix the problems. And honestly, owning and renting real estate, it's not hard. The best thing you can do is to get good tenants and set some standards. Are you taking a minimum credit score? Do you require a certain deposit? Everybody has said first, last, and security. Well, I don't just collect security. I request 2 months security deposit. And by getting 2 months security deposit, I know that they're vested in the property, and they're going to keep my property in good condition. They're going to call me if there's a problem. And for me, that's probably one of the biggest savers that I have is having that communication, well, my property manager, but having that communication with the tenants. And those 2 months, not everyone has 2 months saved up. I get it. Plus first month. I don't charge last month because everyone thinks that this one is the last month, but just really taking your time. If you're going to allow animals, what size animal? Are you allowing pit bulls? Are you not allowing pit bulls? Do you allow chihuahuas? Do you allow cats? One thing that I really try to do on my properties on the rentals is I like to have one floor throughout. Keep in mind, I'm in Florida. I'm in Central Florida, and there's sand everywhere. So if I get an animal on the property and they, use the restroom here and there, is it porous? Is there carpet? Is it luxury vinyl? What is the flooring? And I really like to go with the tile. That's kind of one of my rules. Another rule I try to go by is, paint all the houses the same color. Now, I didn't do that early on. I have so many houses that are white, and then a green wall here, and let's do a beige wall here. And then on the outside, let's use a Elastic Merrick, and let's use a Sherwin-Williams, and we'll use Behr Marquee over here. Like, oh my, if you can go to one store, buy the same product, the same color over and over, it's easier on you, it's easier on your notes, it's easier on the properties. When you got turnover, it's, paint that same color, that same matte wall or eggshell or whatever it happens to be, it makes it much easier. So I am a fan of buy and hold properties. And what I'm looking for, what I try to do is I try to get the passive cash flow. I like to see a property that can cash flow. That is where the expense is here and your income is here and you have a little bit of extra money. Not all properties generate a whole bunch of extra money, but some of them make just a little bit. And so I have a spreadsheet that I run through numbers, and I really try to make sure that I'm making something and my numbers make sense. And I've come up with these different numbers that I like to run. And then if property doesn't qualify for what I'm looking for, then I pass on it. What I really like to get into now are, beyond single family, are apartment buildings and multifamily. that's for a different video. If you like this video, give it a like, give me a thumbs up, subscribe, and or share it with a friend. Either way, I do appreciate your time and thank you for watching my video.